on this call, I called it "Working Your Wave." I have this kind of years and years ago, I had a kind of a brand called Work Your Web, and one day I woke up and went Work Your Wave. So that's kind of my brand with Lifewave, and so I call this called Working Your Wave. Now, if I'm guessing, hi Aloma, how are you from Florida? Just and hi Helen from Cyprus. Look at this, we're connecting people from all over. If you're from other places, do let us know in the chat. This is very exciting. So where I was, I call this Work Your Wave, and I'm guessing that everybody who's on this call wants to progress Lifewave for themselves and for David and for the world. If hands up, thumbs up on that one would be great to see. Yeah, I got a thumbs up from Lady Clayton, from Nico, and Beverly's nodding her head. Tanya, yes. Helen, yes. Julie, I've got thumbs up, yes, from her. Okay, cool. So when we do this, some of you have met me and some of you haven't, and some of you I know for a while, and some of you that I'm seeing new names. But those who know me have heard me say this. So I'll kind of begin the call with this. To do this, to do Lifewave, to make it work for you, you need to have several things. You need to have, on the one hand, persistence and consistency. Like anything we do in life, persistence and consistency every day. Every day. I'll come back to every day in a minute. On the other hand, patience and passion. You can hear I've got a lot of passion, and I know a lot of you have a lot of passion for Lifewave. And we need patience because we need to be patient with people. People can surprise you constantly. I have a friend who I just spent a week with in Amsterdam, and she's a friend. And for 2.5 years, she's told me it's a scam, it's a this, it's a that, it's the other. If you told me you're just doing it for the money, I'll believe you, but I don't believe that. She signed up. I couldn't believe it yesterday. So patience. You have to have a lot of patience with this. You need to have the desire and willingness to learn. In between in between those two hands, in the middle, you need to have the desire and willingness to learn. And in my experience, some people have that desire and other people don't. They don't want to learn. They let's say they know better because they've done something before, or they know better because that's in their nature. So you need the desire and willingness to learn. But aside from all that, and besides all that, you need to have made the decision. I am going to do this. I am going to do this. Now, I have people who decided that in 10 seconds. I'm kind of one of them. Over about 3 days, I said, I'm going to do this. I have people who said, I want to do this, but they didn't decide I am going to do this for 1.5 years or 2 years even. So it's really important to say, I am going to do this, because when we say I am going to do this, then everything else follows that I said. Then it's easy to learn. It's easy to develop. If one hasn't got persistence and consistency to develop that, some people say to me they don't have patience. I say patience we can work on, and as time goes by, the passion will grow. Now, I'd love to hear back from anybody who wants to raise their hand with what I've said, because I kind of do fairly interactive calls, and I'd also like to hear from people who are doing this, but are finding things that make it a little bit hard or surprises, so we can go through that and everybody can learn. Okay, so who's going to put their hand up first? I knew it was going to be Lady Clayton. So can you open your microphone? And does it let you? Okay, I'm going to ask all to unmute again. I pressed the wrong thing. Just a minute. You need to go to participants, ask all to unmute. So you can unmute, and I'm going to mute John, and I'm going to mute Ilse. If you're not speaking, can you mute your microphone? Okay, so just a little bit of context. Why don't you tell, because not everybody's met you here on this call. We met in the UK in person for the first time, even though I'd seen your testimony. But just briefly tell that, and then go to what my question was.
Okay. So in a nutshell, I am an investor, investor in crypto, and investor in health and wellness. And the crypto side is going on autopilot. So now I have time for the health and wellness, which is great for me because I was ill once upon a time ago, having a stroke and having cancer, and I wanted a drug-free product. So because it's helped me a lot, I want to share this to the world. So I am persistent and consistent and very passionate. The only thing I don't have is bloody patience, because I don't understand why they don't get it. Simple. I'm a very black and white gal. Either you do it or you don't, otherwise.
Right, but with the black and white, you also you also want to reach to these people. So I tell a lot of stories. I never make a point without telling a story, and never tell a story without making a point. And some of these stories can be sideways, not direct, because I'm always playing with people. You know, people who said no to me, I'm always poking and having fun with it. It's like, I'm going to say this, and I've said this a while ago, but it's like running 50 dates at the same time. If you're having a date with a girl, or you're having a date with a guy, if you're having 50 dates simultaneously, it's a bit like that. So you don't know. You have to be, you know, light but insistent. So I'll give you an example. There's a woman I met the other day. I parked my motorbike and she came by in a very nice blue camper van and a big smile. And I was like, oh, big smile, like that. And she said, I've been looking for a parking place. I said, I'll move the bike and you can get in, please. And then we bumped into each other. And I'm going to mute the others who are maybe background noise. We bumped into each other a few days later in a completely different place. And she said, I don't believe in coincidences. I said, this time give me your number, because you hadn't got in touch with me. The first time she had a South African sticker on her car. You're always looking for ways to make conversation. I said, oh, you've been to South Africa? I just came back from South Africa. Oh, cool. Yeah, I love South Africa, she says. And she opens the back of her car and she's got a surfboard in there. And I say, oh, what do you do when you're not going surfing? And that question, some of you have heard me say, what do you do when you're not doing what you're doing now? What do you do when you're not eating at a restaurant like this? What do you do when you're not swimming on this beach? What do you do? Because what do you do is a really boring question, but you need to engage people in conversation. So if somebody says, what do you do? You're like, oh, please, it's a boring question. I have had great responses with, what do you do when you're not flying to visit your family in Zimbabwe? What do you do when you're not going to Madrid or Barcelona on holiday? So that began our conversation, and I gave her my card, but I didn't hear back from her. Second time I bumped into her, I said, this time, I said to her, give me your number. And I sent her some stuff, and today I saw her kind of buffing her car as I was driving down the road, and I said, hey, hi, I know you're going away to South Africa in a couple of weeks. How about we connect? And she said, yeah. But she said, I don't understand how you do what you do. And I said, well, that's why we need to sit down and talk. But, you know, you're leaving on the 20th. She said, no, on the 15th. I said, well, I'm away till the 10th. So maybe when you come back. I kind of pushed it away, but then so that was kind of non-threatening. But then she's like, but I am here till the 15th. I said, so maybe we can talk before you go away. But this is being consistent but playful. I would like to be able to grab some people and say, pay attention to this. I've got my hand around your throat, but you can't do that. You guys have heard, a lot of you have heard me, and you've heard Chris talk about how I got his attention. 21 messages after the first thing when I said to him if you've heard it, well, you've heard it, but if you hadn't, I said to him, you look like, on a Zoom call about something else, I said, you look like kakapupu, using a more descriptive word. And he's like, thanks for the compliment. I said, but I can help you. But he had no attention, no headspace, no ability to listen. But I had it very clear in my mind, he's going to do this with me. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to do it with me. So if you've got a feeling about a person, really go with it. But I knew he couldn't input more information than little bits. So I sent him over 6 weeks, every 2, 3, 4 days, something. Maybe a short video, maybe something written, maybe a voice note. And it wasn't until the 21st voice note that I got the echo back. And that's the other thing. When you're talking to people, always look for the echo. And sometimes you can make the echoes. Say the woman here, when I said to her, what do you do when you're not going surfing? She said, my boyfriend and I, we work on boats. I go, okay, but she'd already told me she loves traveling. I said, well, maybe you should do what I do, because then if you do it with consequence for a couple of years, you can probably travel for the rest of your life. That's where there was an echo with her. It wasn't a strong echo like with Chris, where I said, I told him about my friend with severe tinnitus had a result in 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I told him about Javi's son, Alex, and his autism. And that's when Chris said to himself, wait a minute, George doesn't know that my nephew's got autism, doesn't know that Lucinda's got tinnitus. We're going to try. You never know where the echo is going to come. So you just have to kind of pitch in the dark and keep playing. And just because somebody said no to you, some people say a no means not now. Well, it is not now. It doesn't mean they're going to say yes one day. But with patience and time, you will be surprised at how many people come back to you. People who call me, one friend from Madrid, she calls me, are you still doing that thing you were doing? Yes, I am. When are we going to talk about it? Sometimes you can be blunt. Sometimes you can be my brother. Some of you have heard me say this, 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, 32 months ago, when I began with Lifewave, I told him what I was doing. I'm in London for an event. I'm in London to get a plane to America for an event. I mean, nothing. Until 2 years later, he calls me. He says, my wife's niece is using those patches of yours, lives in Holland. We want to use them. And then I go, oh, okay. Total surprise. Really didn't expect it. He then had a great result with a cough I didn't know he had for 20 years. He said, maybe it's a coincidence. I said, no, it isn't, because the cough was gone. And then he wanted to try with his daughter for acne. So I heard him say to my sister, I'm an evangelist for those patches. He's not working with it. But maybe one day he will. But he's head totally changed around. So what does that give me? It gives me leverage. I mean, it's improved his life, but leverage, this is another thing. It gives mental leverage within my family, none of whom have listened to me. But he's an evangelist for it, so he's heard my sister say that. And I was able to tell my cousin that Michael, my brother, he said to my sister, he's evangelist. And that, because they know Michael, they're like, oh, interesting. But you have to take the long view. I'm in a big hurry, but I'm never in a hurry. And that's a really important thing. Posture is important. I got a message from somebody yesterday. I don't know if she's on the call. By the way, hi, Adrienne, Louis, and Inus, welcome. So what do I tell this person? And this person had clearly gone to AI, maybe ChatGPT, and said, how about Lifewave? And ChatGPT says, yes, no, maybe. scientists say, other people, there are testimonies, but scientists, thank you, sweetheart, and so on and so forth. So I said to her, you know, look, this is AI. This is the response you're gonna get, but you know, and I'm not that much in favor of AI personally. Maybe a lot of you use it, maybe you don't. For me, it's got its uses, but it's not. Anyways, we won't go into that. But when I have somebody who sent her an AI produced, why you wouldn't want to do Lifewave, maybe you would want to do Lifewave, and he's asking about Parkinson's. And I said, look, you know very well what you've got. You've seen the results in lots of people around you already. So you may want to tell this person it's not for you. The person wanted to ask AI what the patches would do for Parkinson's. It's a stupid question. Excuse me, AI, but it's a stupid question because you have to know and keep telling people, and many of you have heard me say this, these patches are not designed to cure or treat anything in specific. They're designed to elevate different peptides. And when those peptides are elevated, what we're doing is we're setting the stage in a body for that particular body to heal itself. But we need to bear in mind that we all come from different tribes. We've got different DNA, and we've used and abused our bodies differently. And there's one more thing that, you know, many of you seen Dr. Olufemi on the groups, but you know, this is something I learned with discussions with him, is that two people can have outwardly the same symptoms, but the pathway to those symptoms could be completely different in those two different people. And this is why it's so important well, we're constantly getting people saying, will it work for this? Will it work for that? Will it work for, I don't know, it might not, it probably will. We have, that said, we have testimonies on that, but you need to understand each body is different. So back to posture. This is the really important thing to develop. Probably the most important thing is posture, that you know what you've got, we know what we've got. We have David with us, David behind us, David's vision, and we share. I think everybody on the call shares David's vision to get this into 1 billion homes. Because we live in a world of bad news, but we're doing something very powerful and bringing good news, and people are skeptical. It's normal that they should be skeptical of good news. You know, I was skeptical when I first saw this, but I'm also open, and I listen to David. I use a lot that video of his 36-minute video, and if people actually bother, I put the 2-minute overview video and the 36-minute video, and if they watch the 2-minute one, and then I put a few more things written, because a lot of people like to writing, but if they actually watch that, I tell them, you know, when I first saw that video, I thought, what a humble man. If this is true, it's revolutionary, I want to try. And one thing led to another. So when people tell me they're skeptical, I go, yeah, of course, it's different. I'm going to say this, which comes to mind. We have, there's a Polish person who some of you may have come across, Krzysztof Markowski. He's a SPD, Senior Presidential Director. And he did a little video the other day, which I should probably put in the groups. I'll ask Chris, because I know Chris wants to use it, where he talked about the different waves of growth in the world when we went from, you know, steam engine to the next stage with, I guess, electricity, and then the next stage, internet, and each time what the growth that it brought. And now for this stage, we're talking about, he's talking about AI, back to AI, and health and technology. So we are, and I've actually got to ask Chris to post it on all the groups. We are really at the beginning of this wave with these kind of technologies, and Lifewave is somewhere at the beginning of this next wave. And he goes through in his video about how many years each wave took. So I find that to be very interesting. So we are kind of early adopters of this technology, and each one of us has our own interests. You know, look, I said to David, I've had several conversations with him, and I said to David, I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this. And I'm sure some of you feel the same. But also in my personal life, I had 3 businesses before COVID. And by the end of COVID, I had half a business. So I was kind of back against the wall, and I was looking for something. And the last thing I would have ever thought it would be multi-level marketing, because I did that once in the mid-2000s, and I said, I'm never going to do this again. And some of you might have been there. But what we have here is a company that's so radically different. It's not an entrepreneur's looked for a product and said, let's market it. In the company that I was with for a year in the mid-2000s, they said, forget about the product, lead with the opportunity. Now, I didn't like that. And one of the first things I said, first I met, when I saw that video I referred to before, I said, I need to speak to somebody who's been with this company for a while. And thus I got to speak with Javi Solis, who many of you know. I said to him, Javi, I was never going to do this again. And he said he wasn't either, but they saw what it did to their son. I think most of you know the story of Alex with his autism and the huge improvements and the changes that brought to their family. And I said to him, you know, what I like about this, we can lead with the product, but we have a product that's unique, that's affordable, and that is protected by a whole lot of patents. So from the marketer's point of view and the logical point of view of deciding to work with in a network, that made a lot of sense. And then, so we can lead with the product. But then as time goes by, and this is, and many of you have heard me say this, but it bears repeating regularly and using. We're offering 4 things here: better health and well-being. And I tell people this, people who I don't know, better health and well-being, better emotional health. When one person in a family group improves their health, that improves the whole family group. People get that. They kind of resonate when I say that. And I'll say, one of my friends sends me a WhatsApp saying, you can't imagine the joy this has brought to our family. Better spiritual health, and that's more subtle. But if I think, and I tell people when I'm in their beginning conversations, if I had stuck with my original no, because I was really not interested in MLM, and I didn't believe in stem cells because I thought it was aborted fetus or stolen placentas and other species. If I stuck with my original no, there are literally thousands of people around the world who still be living in excruciating pain. Lady Clayton, for example, being one of them. Her story is very, very powerful. The pain she was able to leave behind. And so I say, thank you, Lord, because I don't know her. We have met now. But to think that a yes that I said affects lives all over the world. And here's an example with her nodding. I say, thank you, Lord. And better financial health. Now,
could I just share something just very quickly?
Please.
If Javi and Olga from America hadn't shared that story to you in Europe, to you then to South Africa to me in the UK, I would never have known this if it was sitting on a shelf. If anyone can use it that way and share it to everybody, to share it that way, to say, if someone hadn't told them, who hadn't told in South Africa, who hadn't contacted me in the UK, for me to then contact Scotland, we've got to share it. We've got to voice it.
Oh.
We've got to.
Magda says, amen. And somebody asked, do you have a testimonial? If you have the YouTube of your testimonial,
yes,
easily to hand, put it here in the chat so people can copy it and watch it later.
I'll find it. Find
Okay.
it. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
No, I really do. I've just got to be a bit more patient because I'm not.
Okay. So is what I'm saying useful to you?
Oh, it was all useful. Oh my God. Thank God it's being recorded because I'm going to go over it again and again and again. Like
Okay.
I do with all the testimonials.
So look,
I'm in this company for life. I'm committed.
I love it. And who else is committed? I'm committed. Great. So look, there are a lot of people who talk about abundance and so on, and I will respect that, but I don't. I'm always about, after that COVID nonsense, I was back against the wall in my money life. I did things with crypto. I don't have a lot of heart for crypto, but that's fine. I made a lot of money with it. I lost a lot of money with it, but it doesn't really get me excited. So, but after that COVID period, I was like, how many tomatoes can we buy? Are we going to buy these ones at €3.49 the kilo, or do we have to buy the ones like 2 tomatoes at €1.20 a kilo? They're not very good tomatoes, To be in that situation, and I'd been there before, I didn't want to be there again. So I always talk about financial anxieties with people. First thing we want to do, and you never know where people are with their money. The other day in Holland with my friend, this couple, lovely couple, and my friend actually paid the bill at the table, and she said the reason she told me, is they're having a hard time with money. And I talked to them about the patches, and he loved the business concept because he's a guy who does business and helps people grow their businesses. And his wife, or new wife, she's a physiotherapist with a lot of sports people and arts people. So we go back to the echo. With her, I got the echo because I know what to talk about because she's talking about sports people and arts people. But with him, I didn't know where to approach him. So I sent them both the same information that I sent. And with her, I followed up once, didn't get a response, but I'll continue to do so. But with him, now I know their money situation. I know where to start. I actually showed him my back office, which he found to be very, very interesting. But now, with that extra bit of information, I know where to start with him. Let's get you to that point in your money lives where you don't have to stress anymore. So, Rachel, you've got your hand up, another person did too. But Rachel, why don't you unmute and say what you would like to say? I can ask all to unmute in case it doesn't work for you. So Rachel can unmute. Now you should be able to. Otherwise, I'll find you and unmute you. Just a minute. Here we go. Rachel, what? Your microphone doesn't seem to be connected, Rachel. It's the only... Oh, yes, it does. It's the camera that's not. Ask to unmute. I sent you an ask to unmute. And if not, while you're figuring that out, if somebody else had there was somebody else with a hand up previously.
Yeah,
Beverly.
it was me. Yes, it was me. Just let me put that
Hi,
back
Beverly.
on.
How are you?
Fine, thank you, News. Sorry, I'm also, there we go. I also got dropped for a second. I think, so where I'm coming from is firstly retaining customers. Sometimes they're on a month and then all of a sudden I find out they've just stopped because, they think it's not working. So very often in my beginning stages of closing and getting people on board is to emphasize, that obviously that's 3 months, but I use whoever I attract as a reflection of who I am. And so I see my own limitations and my own stuff, like perhaps not being able to keep my customers, my brand partners, consistently using the product. And secondly, also because I think those muscles particularly with me who had never been in this industry, they're very weak. So the consistency muscle, as you talk about, for me is weak. I have to consciously think about the process of being a good network marketer all the time, because that muscle is weak. And then I feel that I reflect and bring those kinds of people on board. So for me, it's and maybe I overthink it, George, because I am pretty much like that. And so it's a bit of a vicious circle. So I find it, I have to really put a lot of effort in to connect like that. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I do, absolutely. So maybe it's a little bit of, but you posture. It's again 80% of this. 20% is how this works and actually doing it. 80% you've jumped somewhere else on the screen. So I was looking at you. So 80% of this is the work we do on ourselves. So you could say. George is successful. Yes, very grateful. Thank you, Lord, in every sense. But I also want to take this to many times where it is now. So that means I got to do some work on myself. Like, do I really want to talk to those people? The ones who are asking the same silly questions time after time after time after time. Yes, one has to. When I say patience, you've also got to be patient with yourself. You've got to be persistent with yourself, consistent with yourself. So, on that one question of, a lot of people think just because they sign up a brand partner, they know what to do, but they don't, and they will stay, and they might not. And it's really important. And even though we've talked about the new compensation plan, and it will come into action when it does, it's designed to help people at the beginning, if they do really a modest amount of effort, to start seeing money coming in, because that will maybe help retain those people. Now, in the current plan, the way it's structured, building managers and directors, what I discovered, it's relatively easy. If somebody says, I want to do this, it's relatively easy to help them to become a manager. But it's much harder to help them to become a director, because then they have to decide, do I really want to do this? Can I be bothered to do this? Is it really worth it? Do I care enough? All of these questions. So you also need to listen, Beverly, and this took me a while to figure out, not only to what they're telling you. You have to kind of learn to listen to what they're not telling you. And oftentimes people are reluctant to express themselves clearly, let's say. So there's a little bit of an art to that. On the practical side, I always tell people, look, David Schmidt, and I've actually, friend of mine I always tell them, David Schmidt, it's a 90-day protocol. What we've discovered, though, is that for every decade of life, you want to be using the patches for a month. So expectations. Some people have a result in 10, 15 seconds, other people in a day, other people 3 days, other people take 3 months. We're never going to know what's going to go on in your body. So I have a friend, she had severe emphysema. She had an oxygen bottle. And I'm not generally looking for people who are ill. But her brother, she was an old love of mine, and her brother, I bumped into him and I asked how she is, and he said, no, she's really not good at all. She's got an oxygen bottle. So I called her and I said, I feel I need to tell you about what I'm doing. And she said, I'll try for a month. And I said, don't bother. Don't bother. If you're not going to commit to 3 months, don't bother. And she's like, And then she said, okay, I trust you, I will. And within about a month to 6 weeks, she could be at home without the oxygen bottle and even walk around the block. Now, in her case, she didn't stay with the patches, which really surprised me. Why? Because she's very much in the hands of her doctors. And the doctors couldn't see about the patches. So after 3 months, she left them. But you never know. You can see people who have great improvements, and they leave the patches, and you go, why would you do that? So, there's a Yorkshire expression, there's noughts so queer as folk. There's nothing so strange as people. So you will come across this constantly, but the main thing is to do this every day. Everybody talks about reach out to 3 people a day. You never know who you're going to. Hi, Liesl. Are you putting your hand up to say something?
I've got a question, George, but I'll wait for you.
Okay.
No, I've got a question.
So you, there was a man, and he's called John Maxwell, who was speaking at the Orlando event. I'd heard his name as a coach, but I'd never come across him. And many of you have heard me say this, but many haven't. And he said, you know what? I've got a task. I've got to chop down this big tree. He said, but look at me. He was in his late 70s, maybe 80, very kind of sleek, rotund a little bit. He says, but look at me. He says, I can't be chopping trees down. He says, I mean, look at me. He says, but I've got a very sharp axe. I've got a very sharp axe. What I can do is I can go to the tree every day and hit it 5 times. He says, what I can't do is hit it all day long. But I can do that every day. And he said, the people said to me, what do you mean every day? Yes, every day. Every day. Every day. He says, but what I don't do is I don't go to 10 different trees. I keep going back to the same tree. And I've seen people, we have a great tree with Lifewave, but people have said to me, there's this other network doing this. And one woman, I said to her, look, you know what? Choose. Either do that or do this. But if you try and do 2 networks simultaneously, neither are going to work. And she said, yes, but multiple streams of income. I say, yeah, I get it. But you know what? Let's make you successful with Lifewave if that's what you choose to do, and then invest in property or whatever it is to give you an income separately. I understand about that, but if you're going to do network, you really need to focus on it. So this is, I hope, kind of got to the end of that one. Liesl.
George, yes, I'm listening to all this, and then I'm trying very hard not to get discouraged because I'm still working full-time as well. So it feels to me like you're talking about working your wave. I feel like I'm standing on the beach and I'm looking at those waves coming. And for 10 days a month, I cannot do anything in Lifewave. And then for 2/3 of the month, yes, then it feels as if I start over every month.
Okay, so then I understand that, and you need to not be harsh with yourself about that. So if that's your reality, kind of accept it. But at the same time, even though 10 days of the month you can't do anything, you may find that actually you can do some small things. You can send messages. You can ask for feedback from people. There are things that you can do in moments. Or let me say this. Let me ask you a question. Are there not some things that you could do in those little moments in between?
There are, but it doesn't feel effective. Like every day I'm busy with Lifewave. Every day I'm answering a question here and there, but it feels to me like, okay, between the 25th of the month and the 5th of the next month, I'm putting Lifewave on the shelf, and it feels like I'm unpacking a new box every time on the 6th of the month. But I get what you say. I get the small things in this busy time of my work. I do get that, but I don't know. I kind of feel lost. I listened to one of your talks one day, and you said, you made the list, but you never keep to the list. And I feel the same because I speak to so many people. And then I listen to Chris teaching on how you must follow up with the people you speak to. I speak to so many people, I can't even remember all the people that I speak to.
Okay, so I noticed that he made a form to help people to... I'm not very organized. I really am not very organized. But somewhere in my mind, I'm pretty good at listening to what my mind tells me. But if you say to me, I would say, do what Chris says, make a list of 100 people. Even if you don't talk to them, you're going to have a conversation with each one of them in your mind. And that's going to lubricate your mind. All of this is energy, is giving energy. And I understand what you're saying. You're saying, I'm not feeling that great that I can't give energy to this. for those 10 days. And maybe you can't give practical energy to it, but you can give mental energy to it.
Okay.
And if you hold on to that, it will become inevitable. But also reach out to me when you need to and see if I can help you.
All right, thanks. That in itself is encouraging already. Thanks, George.
You're welcome. Thank you. So, somebody else would like to say something? Okay, Nico. Hi, Nico. How are you? Let's see if I need to send you a thing. I'm not sure. Let me put Nico in here and ask you to unmute, because I'm not sure, because the settings are on Chris's. So you can unmute. Okay. Hello? We're not hearing you. Nope, not
Can't
yet.
hear me.
Now we can.
Yeah,
we got you. Now we got you. I'll ask you to unmute again. We were starting with, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Now we do.
Got
Okay.
me. Okay. So something that I'm experiencing is a lot of people that I'm dealing with is a lot older than me. So not always knowing how to communicate with someone, because I'm 29, communicating with someone that's 35, 40, 50, 60 years old, you know, and explaining the product or getting them to engage with me, being a younger person. So I don't know if you have some advice on that. Maybe I would really appreciate it.
Number one, you're lucky that you're 29 with this knowledge about Lifewave. If I was 29, I would have saved myself a lot of messing around in my life. So treat people like people. And when there's stuff that you don't know how to explain, say to them very clearly, I don't know, I'm going to find out for you. And it's very important, guys, to, you know, a lot of people don't do this. You need to expose people to your upline. Who is your upline?
Sigrun and Eulalia. Eulalia is in the call, I'm sure.
Okay, so you know, when you have your first contact with people and you don't know, you say, I'm going to find out. And that's a perfect opportunity to say, listen, let me get you on a call with my upline, because they got more experience. You know, you can say, you know, I've just came across Lifewave, and what I can see, and I'm definitely going to be busy with Lifewave as time goes by, but I don't have all the knowledge to answer your questions, and be very, very upfront about that.
Yeah.
You know,
so just honest. Be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look,
yeah.
we're and you heard me say stories. So the more you're on the groups, the more calls you're on, the more stories you're going to hear. When you hear those stories, remember those stories. I'm all about stories, because you know, Chris always says this: facts sell, stories sell. I'm not actually trying to sell you patches. Actually, to tell the truth, I will never sell a sleeve of patches. I've sold everything in my life, from total rubbish to a hotel. I've sold events. I've sold contemporary art, furniture, handicrafts. But what I love about this is I'm not going around with sleeves of patches saying buy patches. What I'm doing is I'm sharing this story, which has these 4 elements, which I mentioned before: better health, well-being, better emotional health, better spiritual health, better financial health. And I'll say to people, some people just want one of them. I want all of them. Yeah. And you see whether there's an echo with them or not. But you know what? We bump into people all day long. And it's a question of reaching out to people, having conversations with people. Now, I know for a lot of people, that's a little bit hard. So practice, play with it. Talk to people who are sitting next to you. Hey, I like your shoes. I said that to a lady in a restaurant. Oh, you're blue from top to bottom, I said to her. She was like chuffed. She was beaming at me because she'd obviously loved, and I said, I love lapis. Unfortunately, we were just leaving that restaurant. but had we not just been leaving, I would have gone into a conversation with her. So play with it. Now, a really useful thing that may or may, you may have, where are you in South Africa?
I'm in Joburg, Johannesburg.
Okay, so in Johannesburg, you will sure have Toastmasters. Have you ever heard of Toastmasters?
Yes.
So Toastmasters, I years ago when I did network in the mid-2000s for that year, I heard of a Toastmaster, and I went to a Toastmaster meeting because I thought maybe I'll meet people for my network. But I actually saw something, and so I said to them, "Can I come for another meeting?" And I went for the next meeting, and I said to the guy who, because everybody gives speeches, but I realized they were teaching people more than to speak, to listen. And this is really, really important. Listening, what I said before. Listening what people are saying and listening to what they're not saying. But then there's another thing they do, which I personally love. It's called table topics. You get given an object or a word, and you have to talk for 2 minutes. So, if I'm going to give you this, right, Nico, talk for 2 minutes.
About a scissor.
Talk for 2 minutes. Okay. So now you give me something. Pick something up and give it to me. Or a word.
Glasses.
Glasses. You know what? I love glasses. I have a couple of pairs, one for reading, but I barely need to use them anymore because of what I'm doing. My dark glasses I keep on my head most of the time, but I wear them not that often. But what glasses let you do, they let you see better. And what's happening to me with what I'm doing is I'm actually seeing better. I don't need to use my glasses. I took it where I wanted.
Yeah, look here.
Somebody should unmute. Should mute. Somebody should mute. Mute all. Somebody should mute. I'm going to not mute Nico. If you're unmuted, can you mute, please?
It's Fraser.
Who's making that noise? Johnny P, I think. Mute. Okay. So find your local Toastmasters and do that. You may meet people for your network, but you will get very good at landing like a cat in any situation. And that's, when I say 80% of this is the work we do on ourselves, and I wouldn't suggest you get onto the leadership track that they do. The 1 year of Toastmasters will help you very much with, and it costs nothing. I mean, here it's like 70 euros for a year. It will help you very much with being comfortable in any situation.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much. It just gets, the mind going to think, how can I connect?
Which is the most important thing.
Yes.
Nico, stay in touch.
I will. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So Freeman was next, and then Helen. Freeman.
Thank you. Just to add on to what you're saying, normally at the beginning, to me, the most important thing is not to explain, but to invite. And let either your upline do the talking or put them onto the presentations, because that way you are away from explaining and failing to explain things. So we should be good at just inviting. I've heard about this product, you don't even mention it. It's doing wonders in the world. Tell me, would you like to know more about it? That's the question that I put in. And most people will say yes. When they say yes, and I check, when are you free? What am I doing? I'm now getting them onto a Zoom call, or if the Zoom call is too late, I then can phone my upline and say, I've got somebody who needs a presentation. It's the safest way, and always say to people, I'm just new, I've just found it. So you've got a very good excuse for not explaining. Thank you.
Thank you, Freeman. I'm sure you've got some more to add to that, to share from other things I've been saying. If you have, do share.
Sorry?
No, so I'm saying from some of the other things I've been saying, I'm sure some things came to your mind. So if there's something else you would like to share from what I've been saying, please share, because you have a very good way of thinking.
No, I just like the way that you're saying the approach also of taking the time with people. Because I know I had somebody who joined me after a year. She told me, and I didn't do anything else. I just kept to the date. Okay, I'll call them on that date. Are you ready? If they say, no, give us another date, just wait. I don't call them in between. I may just send some videos and just leave it like that.
So that would bring me to a thought I had earlier. Thank you, Freeman. That, when people are like that, I just get on with other people. I get on with other people. The world is full of people, and there's also the people who one's working with. So, people you invite directly, and then the people who are in your organization who say, I want to do this. We don't push people. We want to work with the people who want to do it. Before Ilse, Helen had her hand up. Hi, Helen. Greetings. Do I need to send you a message maybe that you can unmute? Helen, unmute, ask to unmute. Chris's settings are different to mine.
Evening, George.
Hi.
Thank you so much for such an incredible session today, and thank you for always imparting your nuggets, your golden nuggets of wisdom with us. It's
I don't know.
Simple
stuff.
I just wanted to just re-echo on Nico, what he brought up there, please. And I know Ashley is on the call. She's also one of the young presenters and very successful in the business. What I wanted to just ask George is sometimes when we approach people, it's our fear. So Nico, what is it exactly that you are concerned about with the age gap?
Good question.
So do you want to, I don't know if we can ask him.
No, I'm going to ask him to unmute. Good question. Ask to unmute. You can unmute, Nico.
Okay, can you hear me again?
Yeah.
Okay, so I recently had a customer, let's just call it a customer, that just started with the X39 patches, and she asked me a pregnancy question, and I don't have kids yet. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what do I say? And I did a bunch of research with her question, and I did ask my upline, I did ask Sigrun, but she wasn't also 100% sure. So it was kind of embarrassing.
But you're on the 333 groups.
Yes, I am.
You've got Group Mind. We have Group Mind. So ask those questions in the group, because you will get lots of responses. So don't be fearful about being younger. Don't be fearful about not having answers. And you don't have to find them all yourself. And really, the Group Mind is very, very, very powerful. I guess a lot of people don't get that in the beginning, so I'm going to say that again. Group Mind is very, very powerful. I don't. The other day, I mean, I keep a lot of things in my head, but I was like, somebody asked me a question. I am going on the group. Somebody help me! I'm looking for this. He was there within seconds. So do that.
George, also, I just
you're not on your own. You're not on your own. Sorry, just a sec, Helen. No. It's really important. You're not on your own. We're doing these things for our own selves in our money lives, but you're not doing it by yourself. And we also, in my personal philosophy, I say patches are my politics. So we're sharing with David's visions to get the patches and the light into bodies all over the world, because that's the way we do change the world. Helen.
Thank you, George. Nico, just remember, when you drive a car, you don't learn the mechanics of the car. So when there's a problem, you take it to the mechanic himself, right? So what's amazing about our organization and our company and what we're doing is, regardless of our age, health is the basis of our health span is very important. No matter how long your lifespan is, do people have a long health span. And what we're doing is merely just sharing. And what Friedman said was imperative, because we don't have to explain. You don't have to know everything. You literally just send them to the presentations, whether they're live, you know, in the geographical area that is closer to the person where they live, or on a Zoom call, you know, where we can connect with people all over the world. And not everyone connects with all the presenters. They've made favor one person's approach versus another. So there's two things about people. They're either going to have a concern or they're going to have a commitment. They're either going to be concerned about their health, or they're going to commit or they're going to commit to a healthier lifestyle. And we're just sharing. That's what we're doing. We're sharing. So maybe to detach from the outcome, detach from the, you know, the reject. For example, we feel that it's rejection when they say no to us. We mustn't take it personally. Our duty is just to share. And if they don't try it, they'll never know. You know, they'll never know. We're going to plant the seed, and wherever the seed falls, if that soil is fertile, it's going to grow. And
Thank you,
it's
Helen.
okay. Thank you so much.
I
Thank
want to
you
ask you a quick question, Helen. Is that background where you're sitting on your terrace, or is that another?
No, it's close. It's close by, George. But Cyprus has actually been on fire, by the way. We've had the island burnt.
Oof.
So I'm very blessed to still have the water near me. Yes, and very happy to be on the call with you today, because a lot of our friends and family have lost their homes.
I'm so sorry.
Be grateful. No, it's not my background, but I'm close to this background.
Okay.
Thank
so,
you.
Ilse, you had your hand up. And then...
Okay, thanks, George. It was something that Beverly said earlier on who we attract. But going back to your theme of tonight, of what you always talk about, is finding the echo. Now, just as a background, when your 21 times to Chris is always such a relief for me. So I can just go back to people. And sometimes I just stop going back to them with the products if I've spoken to that already. And I just send them funny cats and funny dogs again, like we always used to do. And that sometimes helps to, you know, to just be normal again. And like you say, play with people. But last week, I found someone that I haven't spoken to for 10 years. And I thought, now, how am I going to approach this one? You know, I can't just come out of the blue. It was, I used to do regulatory exams, and she was one of the invigilators that worked with me. I was at the head office here in Stellenbosch, and there were people all over the country. So I thought, okay, I'll phone her. She lives in the Karoo in a town, and there's 5 things that Eric Worre always talks about, the leaders he wants. And now when Bev was saying one understands that one's not attracting the people that you actually want. And I phoned this friend of mine, and I said, your name came up today, and, you know, can we maybe chat? And we chatted quickly, and I said, you know, she said, okay, she told me what she was doing. And then she said, so what are you doing these days? I said, you know, I'm actually looking for people in the Eastern Cape, for young people, 20 or 30 years old. So that's your age, 29 years old. But I said, for young people who are independent, they're problem solvers, persistent with what they start and what they're doing. They must have some vision, and there must be some of those young people that can create action. She said, your business sounds so interesting. We have to talk more. I can't talk more, but can we talk tomorrow? I didn't say a word about what I'm doing. But with all these things, people tick off in their minds. So she was sitting there because she is an independent person running her own business. So she was ticking off. Probably all 5 was fitting her. It's like the last message that George sent to Chris was about the ringing of the ears, which Lucinda had. George didn't know that. And about his nephew. Yeah, and his nephew was autistic, because I think you sent him Harvey's video of Alex. Then he responded after 21 times. So he was ticking off both, 100%.
But you see, I could not know where the echo would be.
Yes,
I'm pitching in the dark, but I'm keep pitching until
you got there. So to say to people, I'm looking for young people who are independent problem solvers, persistent in what they do. They must have some vision, and it must be really one of those young people who create action wherever they go. Puff, she ticked off all 5. She said, it sounds so interesting. I didn't say a word about what it is. Next day, we had a long conversation for an hour and a half. So that's really, it's just finding the echo.
So look,
Hope that helps.
sometimes it's good to do a bit of research on somebody. There's a person who, and we want to find the connecting places with those people. So there's a person on a local Mallorca group. She said, oh, I'm new on the island. I just moved here from Paris. I'm originally from Romania. And she had a nice vibe, a good face. And I looked her up because she had the link to her. She has a spa here. And I went, oh, that's interesting. And I had it in my mind, but I was distracted. Maybe I was traveling. And then I saw her say something again. So I reached out to her. I said, I think I should probably tell you about what I'm doing. And but I did a bit more research with her name. I found her on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, she says, I am actively looking for an opportunity. I am active. So in my conversation with her with WhatsApp, because I said, you know, I'm going to send you some things for you to look at. We're going to have lunch on Monday. And she said, but I said, I saw you said you're actively looking for an opportunity. Yes, I'm actively looking for an opportunity. She said to me that. So it may be yes, it may be no. I'm not frothing at the mouth. I want to get to know her as a person because, you know, as much as, and I'll say this, when I did network in the mid-2000s, it's kind of a, what do you call a unilevel system. And I found myself, dealing with people like my friend we vibe with, next friend of a friend, the friend of the friend of the friend. But once we're getting 7 stages away from me, maybe we got nothing to do with each other at all. And I found myself propping up so many people. And my partner at the time, she said to me, wait a minute, why are you so exhausted these days? And I thought about it. And I said, you know, when I have my warehouse, I close the door on Friday at 4 in the afternoon, don't go until Monday at 10 in the morning, and don't think about it. And I don't bother to go there unless I know I have a customer who's actually a spender. Otherwise, we just enjoy the weekend. But now I'm constantly, you know, people are phoning me up at lunchtime on Sundays saying, my parcel didn't arrive. So what I said to myself, I need to learn to filter people better. So why am I saying this? Sometimes we have to say no to people. If I say to somebody, obviously, as many people who join me in my first line, the better. But if it's somebody I'm going to work with, I don't want it to be hard work. I mean, there are people I work with who are much easier to work with than others. So I'm always looking, and this is something that I learned from Javi. You know, when I met Javi, I said to him, a confused mind always says no. So I'm always about clarity as much as possible. But I learned something when I did network in the mid-2000s for that year. I said I learned that the money is in the deep. As you grow your network away from you, you start seeing money. But he was saying, I go down into the depth. I go down into the depth. And I thought it's the same thing. And in my first call with him, I said to him, Javi, how many people in your organization? He said, 900. I said, how long have you been doing this? He said, 4 months. I thought to myself, well, if this guy can have 900, I can have 1,000. I was rounding the numbers up already. But I said, okay, Javi, how many people do you invite? He said, 25. I said, how many people are doing something? He said, about half. I said, no. How many people are really doing something? He said, 5 to 6. And you guys may or may not know about the Pareto principle, 80-20 rule. You know, so basically 20% of the people invited were doing something serious. So, okay, so I start. And after 4 months, I said to him, Javi, after 4 months, you had 900 people. I've got 350 people in my organization. I'm not unhappy, but what's the difference? This is the desire and willingness to learn. What's the difference? He said, I go down into the depth. And then he explained to me, now I had by then the practical experience of seeing somebody in my organization, didn't know the name, but I see over 2 days of a weekend, she brings in 5 people, and I go and see, where is she in my organization? Oh, she's placed them wrong. She could already be manager. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, you know what? I think you want to do this. What is it you want out of this? She said, I want the 1,500, meaning the 1,500 a month that you can get as manager. I said, okay, but you know what? I think you need some guidance because you brought these people in, but you placed them wrongly. So we worked on that. I reached out. So he explained to me, and this is really key, in your organizations, always be looking to see who's doing what. Who's asking questions on the group? Is this a new name that you haven't seen before? Asking 4 questions. Reach out to them, help them. It doesn't matter whether they're in your 15th line. You know, I can see Colin nodding. Actually, we'd love to hear from you in a bit, Colin. So you watch what's going on in your business and help people. I always say this: be kind, help everybody, but sometimes give a kick. You know, and a kick can be firm or gentle, but sometimes you need to be very clear with people, saying, "Look, you know what? If you don't pay attention to this, it's never going to go anywhere for you." That's kind of a kick. Javi gave me a kick in London. He says he told me something, and I said, "You know what? You're right." But that's me needing to work on myself and dig into myself some more. But anyways, Aloma, you may unmute. Let me ask you to unmute.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, George. Thank you. This has been so wonderful. Persistence and consistency. For many of us in the past, it has taken, in myself included, and I'm sure this will resonate with everyone here, the consistency of continuing to do this every day because of the response of the people that we get. I mean, it can be daunting. Myself included, I've had many highs and lows. It's gotten me where I just told Joe, I put my hand up because I said, these people are stupid. They don't know. And I have the passion. I have the passion that I wanted it more for everybody. And the same thing Javi said, you can't want it for them more. You have to learn to separate yourself from it, because if you do, you'll never move forward. Okay? So consistency and persistence, even though you hear the no, you still need to keep doing it. Take time out if you need, because everybody needs it, because we want it so badly for everyone. And we know what we have. We all know what we have. With that said, we just, Joe and I just came back from Greece. We were on a cruise and we spent time in Greece. So we came back last night, and let me tell you, I took numbers, I gave my card, I focused on people, on how we should talk to them, listen to what they're saying, and find out, well, are they looking for, are they finance, they're talking finance, they're talking health, and this is the way we handle people. I got numbers, I got a shitload of follow-up to do. But let me tell you, on the whole cruise of 2,700 people, only one couple noticed my patch and said to me, I know of this, I want more info. We were in the line going up on, we were going the line on one of the excursions, and it was hard to talk. And she said, I know of this. I want to learn more. I want more info, blah, blah, blah. And she spoke Spanish. And I whipped out my card because she said, I know this is for health reasons. I really need to know more. And I pulled out my card. I gave it to her. The husband said, you on WhatsApp? I said, yes. So one person on the ship, and there were other people on the ship that I did, I patched.
So let me ask you a question, Aloma. You've been with Lifewave for...
Going on 2 years. 2 years, 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. So let me ask you a question, because I think this is an interesting question for everybody to hear the answer, and I'm intrigued to see what your answer is. What is so you just described the time that you spent with these 2,700 people on a cruise. What difference do you find in yourself now from 2 years ago when you were really, you got to listen. So let me ask you that question.
The difference is I'm with conviction, and the people out there on a cruise ship, that people from all over around the world that I talk to, and practically none of them know about Lifewave.
So you said conviction. So you would say your posture has improved since. Okay, so tell us a little bit how that those changes, because I think that's useful for people to hear. Because I know you were very frustrated for a very long time, and I know that there's probably a level of frustration still, but your posture's improved, so therefore it would seem to me that your approach to people will be better than it was. Can you talk about that, please?
Yes, my approach to people now is way different. I listen. I mean, at first we were all vomiting on people. I listen more. I listen to what the echo, to what it is they're saying, and not to get overly excited because we want to just tell them about it, and listen to, well, if they're talking finances, their financial issue or health. And that's kind of how that's how I've gotten better at it, because the key is really listening to people. And there's a lot of people out there are hurting health-wise and financially all around the world. And I've just come to learn to calm down a lot and really listen and give the right answers. And honestly, taking the chance and coming out of your shell and really talking to people.
Okay, so you added something at the end that I didn't expect.
What?
Because you are a talkative person, but you just said coming out of your shell. So everything else you said, it makes a huge amount of sense in your trajectory from 2 years ago to now. But you coming out of yourself, talk about that a bit more.
Well, not being scared, not being like, what the heck am I saying, that they're gonna look at me and you're crazy. Coming out of your shell, really being tuned in to the Zooms and the teachings like this. And honestly, a lot of it has to do with working on yourself. And I have gotten really good at that. And when you come out of your shell and be a little braver, because this world needs this technology, and it's up to us. It's up to us. It is our social responsibility to talk to people and reach to people. And when you work on yourself, come out of your shell and really be a little more bold, be a little more brave, and you'll see how things happen. See how you reciprocate, and you have to put the vision out there. You have to be brave and put the vision out there. Don't be scared. Be of positive conviction, because every one of us here is in Lifewave. We know what this can do to the world, and it's up to us.
Thank you, Aloma. I really, really love hearing you speak like that.
Thank you.
So I want to say something, and then I would love to hear from Colin, because I saw you give a little video. So in the toolbox, which you all have, on section 103 and page 394, section 103, page 394, external resources section, there's a section with Jim Rohn, Jim R-O-H-N. If you know Jim Rohn, you will benefit by listening to this, and if you don't, you must. The first video here is called Building Your Network Marketing Business. It's a classic. Javi listens to it once a month. I don't listen to it once a month, but I do listen to it from time to time, and there's always more thoughts. And the guy is great. He I guess he's from the 50s, 60s, I'm not sure. But please, it's when Chris was making the toolbox, he didn't add Jim Rohn, and I said to him, please do. What about Jim Rohn? And he added a bunch of five videos of Jim Rohn, but the first one is key. It's 1 hour. Please listen to it. Page again. Sorry. Oops. What have I done? I've closed it. Just a second. Section 103. Where is it? Page external resources, section 103, page. Okay, now let me not close it and move it across. 394. Okay, so Colin, love to hear from you because I saw a video you put out and we haven't met yet in person. Let me ask you to unmute. Colin, unmute. Putting you in the spot here, Colin.
Oh, George, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. No, I'm the new kid on the block, and I don't know if you've watched Fawlty Towers, but I'm Manuel. I know nothing. I know nothing.
He's from Barcelona. He's from Barcelona. Okay?
He's from Barcelona. He know nothing. But no, I've been now 8 weeks in with Lifewave. Now, until then, I was getting crippled with psoriatic arthritis. So, and I was 22 stone. I don't know what that is in real money, but 22 stone. And I was kind of waddling about and really not feeling terribly good at all. Very puffy ankles, high blood pressure, all sorts of problems. And I got in touch with Julia, who is a friend, and she told me about the patches. So I ordered the patches.
Julia Champney?
Julia Champney. Julia's with us. I see her there.
Hi,
And
Julia.
so I ordered the patches. Now, George, as soon as I put the patch on, my body reacted and went, "Oh, hello." And I mean, this is absolute fact. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it.
Yeah,
and so it's as if, I don't know if you've ever suddenly had a drink of all pure vegetable juice or something, your body goes, "Hello, what's this? Where's the pizza?" And all that stuff. So I thought, no, there's definitely something here. So I started asking Julia about it and finding out about it. And then she said, "Well, why don't you consider becoming a brand partner?" So I said, "Yes, I'm in for that." And just, I think last week, I've ordered way ahead. I also have spent my life in television and radio. And for the last 12 years, I then ran into a guy who turned out to be one of those narcissistic characters who went off with, you know, a good whack of money or what have you. So we had to start again at whatever it was, 55.
It happens to more than I know more than a person on this call who's had something with a narcissistic character. But anyway.
Narcissistic character. So anyway, but I mean, I couldn't, you know, a top business school couldn't have taught me more probably. But you know, then I had to start rebuilding. So I went school teaching, and I've just come out. And last year, I've worked since I was 12. I don't want this to sound like any heavy stuff, but I've worked since 12. And last year, my body actually said, "If you don't stop, I'll stop you." And I had a horrific chest and could barely breathe, breathlessness. That was another thing. And I phoned the doctor and said, "I wonder if you can help me." And she said, "Oh, it'll be next week before we can get you an appointment." And I said, "Well, I might not be here because my feet are swelling up by the minute and I'm very, very breathless. I'm really fighting." She went, "Can you come up just now? Are you able to come up just now?" So that was that. And the guy saw me. He said, "Oh, blood pressure is very, very high." Anyway, long story short, a few weeks later on the patches, appointment yesterday with the rheumatologist. I said, "How are you?" I said, "Well, two things, no laughing." I said, "I haven't had coffee for 44 years. And I said, "And I'm back on coffee." And that's one thing. I said, "The other is I'm on Lifewave patches." And she, "Oh, what's this? I don't know anything about this." And I said, "Well, if you don't mind me exposing myself, this is it here, you see," and pointed to the patch. And she said, "Oh, right." And I said, "Now, I'm able to get about very, very well. I'm not breathless. I have no swelling, all of that gone." And I put it down to this and said, "Well, I've got a new drug that we could try because you weren't very good on the other one, naming it." And I said, "Would you do a deal with me and not do any of that and just let me come back?" So that was that. anyway, I popped up to the pharmacist yesterday, and I'll come to this in 2 seconds. And she said, "Oh, you're looking well." I said, "Yes, lost 3 stone."
Wow, congratulations.
30, 50, 52 pounds.
Yeah, because what the stones that you gave me were 140 kilos, which is a lot of kilos. So.
140 kilos, so yes, 20, so now we're 19 and a little bit, just this morning. so that's gone. So another 3 will all go dancing, George. But at the pharmacist, I said, "Yes, on the patches," and I showed them, and she said, "Oh, that's very interesting. So what do they do?" Now, Julia had taught me enough to give a reasonable pitch about it. And that brings me on to, you touched on it. I see life, if you enjoy what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. And I love winding people up when they go, "Yeah, but you don't realize how hard I worked." I say, "Oh, I've never done a handstand." And it's great fun. But I think the sower and the seed, if I may make a biblical reference without upsetting anybody, the parable of the sower and the seed, some fell on good ground, some fell on stony ground. And that's kind of how I've run my working life. Try things. If somebody doesn't want, that's fine. As you say, there are so many people out there. What I tend to do, you were talking about listening when somebody's talking, but also observation. So you might start a conversation, as I've no doubt you've done many times, Doug, and you said, "Are you all right, Mary?" "Oh, no, it's my hips are very "Ah, how long have you had that?" "Oh, if I could, a year or 2 now. Can they not do something?" "Oh, they can't do anything for it." And "Are you on any medication, Mary?" "Oh, I'm rattling. So, right, have you ever thought about the Lifewave patches?" "What's that?" So they're actually asking you, and you can explain about, "Well, that sounds absolutely amazing." You go, and it's not big money, Mary, when you look at what people pay for gyms, for drinks, for diets, for private health care and all the rest of it. And here's what it's done for me. I said, "I can't tell you it's going to cure anything. We don't say that." I said, "But if you look at what it's done for me," I said, "so if you want to try them out, and you can even give them an indication of the price, because it's always the price, George. Everybody's interested in the price."
Priorities, but yes, you're right. Go on.
No, so a little bit of a mention. And so you try them for 6 months, 12 hours off, and see how you get on. I said, but I can certainly highly recommend them. So you've actually sown a seed, and it may come back now. As I say, early days, new kid in the block. What do I know?
So you talk about seeds. Listen to Jim Rohn in the next day or 2 from the Toolbox. So look, it's very clear to me that you're enjoying yourself. So this is key, guys. You can see that Colin's enjoying himself. He's playing with it. He's having fun with it, and that's something to do. Play with it, have fun with it. Now, I still don't know Colin. We've first conversation now, but I saw him. This is an example. I saw him. He did a video on the group. So I said, "Oh, this guy, maybe I need to talk to him." But I've been busy. So we're on this call. Colin's demonstrated his actions. He's on this call. So I see him on the call. I see him with the video on. I see him paying attention. Right, so you got to read what's going on, and I see him nodding, and I go, okay, I saw his video. Now I want to meet Colin as a person and see. So you do this. This is an example of reaching down into the depth. I don't know yet how far Colin wants to take this, because I haven't had a deep conversation with him yet. But my intuition will be that Colin, he talked about losing money, narcissist, took money, whatever. He's also talked about being in TV and radio. He's also talked about being a teacher. So he's not afraid to talk to people. Yeah. So I don't know whether Colin, excuse me, I'm using you as a bit of an example here, Colin, but I don't know whether Colin is going to run with this or not. My feeling is that he is, and that he wants to, because he's seen, and he's somebody who likes to share good news. Am I right with that? So this is an example that you can use as you start looking at people in your organization of where and who to help, who to give energy to, because really we want to, earlier on I talked about in the mid-2000s when I was learning how to filter people, or at the end of it, I said I have to learn to filter people better, because you can't let yourself get exhausted. You can't be carrying people on your shoulders who don't want to do this. You want to find the people who do and help them as much as they wish to be helped. And that's really key. So, if it's not the first, it might be the second. And if it's not the second, it might be the third. And if it's not the third, it'll be the fourth or the fifth. The thing about, the This Is It team, they always say invite 20 people left, 20 people right, because you'll naturally find 4 on each leg who want to run with this. There's a lot of logic in that. But sometimes people go 20, oh, that's crazy. How am I going to do that? But if you do this every day and you keep this, what Onyx Cole says, who some of you may or may not know, she's way up in our upline. She says, when this gets from your head to your heart, there's nothing anybody can tell you.
Wow.
So listen, Colin, let's stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely, sir. And I do, if I may be so bold, just because we're a fairly small group, I do have an alias that I've worked under for 33 years. And I do a YouTube channel. And on Saturday night, you can see on the channel, we had a caller, and I actually did the pitch live during the call. So
good for you.
We'll see what comes of that.
Good for you. So Julia, do you want to say something? Because Julia and I met Julia in London. She, or I'm not sure if we actually spoke very much in London because there were 300 people in the room. But wow. After that, we had a whole series of conversations, which has led to her being here. Would you like to say something, Julia?
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Yeah, we didn't meet, but we did have conversations. Yes, when I spoke to Colin, who I've known for 40-something years, and when I first became aware of Lifewave and experienced it for myself, experienced magic for myself, and then knowing what my dear friend was going through, I just said to Col, try these, give them a go. And he was one of those minute wonders of putting them on and just going, wow. And then, as he said, all his sort of ailments and things. But another thing yesterday that, Col, you told me, your blood pressure was normal again. And that they've been trying to put you back on the medications and things. So that again was just something so wonderful. So I became manager fairly quickly and sort of became a bit lost in life and all these things. But just day by day, knowing more of how I'm feeling and I'm getting this. Just silly things like I find myself looking at my hands and the skin on the back of my hands and age spots going and my eyelashes growing back. Just
so will
magic.
You ever leave Lifewave?
No way! God.
I love it. So
it's like, will I leave the wave of my life? No. This is it. So yeah, so Colin, amazing, and other people who are using them as well. Incredible. So for me, it's slowly and talking to people all the time and sort of in no rush. It's really, I drop the seeds and then next time I see them or when we have another conversation, just another sort of little piece.
But what you're saying is constancy. You're consistent in your way.
In my way, which is not pushing, because when someone's ready to hear, they hear. And that's what it was for me. Because as you know, George, I learned about Lifewave years ago from Michael Jaco. And then the person who actually approached me said, oh, I've got something to tell you about. And he was all sort of tongue-tied because he was trying to make a sale. And he said, "Oh, I've got something to tell you about." And I said, "Yes, what is it?" "Called Lifewave." I said, "I'm in." He went, "No, you don't." I said, "Yes, I'm in. I know all about it." So, yeah, that's how I found out about it. This is my experience. This is my dear friend.
I'm gonna leave you guys with this, because we've got an hour and a half, and I know people have got to go off and so on. But I'm going to leave you with this. There's a doctor who's a senior presidential director. She's Danish. She's a doctor. She had something, and I forgot what it was, and she'd had it for many, many years. And somebody said, use these patches, and whatever it was she had disappeared. And she's like, I can't talk about this from a doctor's point of view. She was too embarrassed. So what she did for 2 years, she didn't explain it at all. She just told people, look, I don't understand how this works. There's these stickers. You just take the paper on and stick it on. It worked for me, try it for you. And she's a doctor. It took her, she said to me, it took her 2 years before she was willing even to talk about how it works. And now her Lifewave is to the point where she doesn't work as a doctor. She spends her time traveling and supporting people in Lifewave. So listen, guys, thank you so much for coming. And I will tell Chris we should do this every couple of months at least.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
So if somebody wants to say a last thing, stick your hands up, or like forever hold your peace, as they say. Going once, going twice. Hey, Monica. Monica's connecting from Portugal. So we got Portugal, Scotland, UK, South Africa, Cyprus. I don't know where else. Probably some other. Oh, Florida. Yep. Mallorca. And cool. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate.
Thank you.
Let's make this
Thank
huge.
you, George.
Let's make this
Thank you,
huge.
George. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, God bless.
Yeah. Thank you, and to you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, George. Good night.
Good night.